All right, we'll call the Village of Lake Park September 10th, 2024 council meeting to order. Councilman Bruce Barton will lead us in the invocation.
All join me in bow your heads. Lord, we thank you for every new day. Please give us the strength and wisdom to see each day with hope and a positive light. Please do not forget the loss our country suffered on 9/11/2001. And let us remember to be grateful for everything at the end of each day as we continue to watch over and care for our village. May we remember to not to take life for granted, and be thankful for every day. Amen.
Stand for pledge, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Any general public comment?
No.
All right. At this time, we welcome Dr. Jonathan Tyson and Ms. Shauna McLam from the Union County Public School System. And we will give you just a minute, we'll get started.
Just stand right here. Be fine.
Yes, sir.
So we have just a brief,
Are you ready? Are we good?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You're good.
so we have just a brief overview of our bond. Of course, we have a bond on the ballot this year to, do some upgrades in our school system. I'll turn it over to Ms. McLam. She's our Chief Financial Officer. We'll talk through this and then we'll answer any questions. This will be brief. I have been asked already, how do we want you to vote? And so I'll have to be very candid. We can't tell you how to vote. We just encourage all citizens of Union County to vote. So I'll turn it over to Ms. McLean.
Yes, so thank you all for letting us come speak with you tonight, just to explain to you what we have on our bond. As you can see, we've got several bonds that we've passed over the last 10 to 15, well, really more 20 years. We've got several schools that we built, and when we had a lot of growth, we did a lot of bonds. We've built a lot of schools over the years, and it's been a successful way for us to be able to address the growth in the county. If you want to move to the next one, as you can see, again, from 2000 to 2016, we had a lot of schools we were building. There they are. So, we've had a lot of renovation projects as well that we've done as part of our bond program. So not all of them have been new schools, but we've done a lot of renovating to some of our aging facilities just to address the growing needs and to address the new needs of our schools and students in some of our buildings and some of our older buildings. And so right now we are in the process in 2022, the last bond that passed is to build a new East Elementary School and a new Forest Hills High School. So we're in the middle of that right now, and we're another year and a half to completion on those projects.
So of course, this is what's on our bond this year. You can see the total amount is just almost $39.5 million. Really, once we get into Forest Hills, the new Forest Hills, East Union is the feeder middle school. So what we will do is we will then move it into the existing Forest Hills, and you can see the figure there. We also have a plan for Parkwood High School. Parkwood High School is one of our original, what we call our original 6. But it is not the building phase. It is of course, you can see a $10 million pre-construction phase to plan and get ready to, of course, hopefully move into a new Parkwood sometime in the future. So why do we need the bond? Of course, these schools were built in the 50s and 60s, and really they're aging facilities. You can see the numbers there on the screen, and of course, the 24 bond is really just a continuation, and Ms. McLean will talk about our bond campaign and our bond process moving forward. So just a continuation of upgrading facilities. And so I talked a little bit about East Union, and I'll take any questions about East Union. It's the oldest building here that we have, and then we would just move into the Forest Hills High School and get Forest Hills and East Union on the same campus. So,
Because right now, they're the only cluster, we don't have the middle and high school at the same campus to be able to share facilities and those kind of things.
but any questions about East Union? So, and then, of course, if you go to Parkwood, and we talked a little bit about Parkwood, these are some just, actually demos of what, East Union would hopefully look like when we move into, the existing building. And then, of course, with Parkwood, it's just the pre-construction phase. And hopefully, if we get the Parkwood High School pre-construction phase on the ballot, we hope in the future, hopefully a few years down the road, we can then get, a Parkwood High School, complete rebuild on the piece of property that we currently have and a piece of property that we purchased that is just adjacent to the high school now. Of course, we have, and you'll see here in just a minute with our bond proposals over the course of the next 10 years, we'd like to replace all of our oldest 6 high schools or do major renovations to those high schools. And hopefully somewhere close on the same footprint. And of course, $10 million seems like a lot, but there's a lot of investigation that has to go into, can we keep the existing building? Can we then build on the property that we have? Of course, we're gonna have to build it at least 2-3 stories high. Of course, I'm not a facilities guy for sure, I'm a schools guy. But it's important for you to understand that a lot of this evaluation is going to be what can we do with the existing building? Because ultimately you see with Forest Hills, we build a new school, we're moving the middle school into the existing building, which is ideal, but we have to do a lot of exploratory work to determine if we can do that with the existing Parkwood High School. All of our original 6 high schools, I think you know, were built in 1960. So they are aging for sure. And then these are some, of course, just pictures you can see of the current Parkwood High School that we have, the current facility. And then, of course, I think Ms. McLean's going to talk about our long-term capital plan.
Yeah, so like Dr. Tyson mentioned, we do have a lot of facilities and different needs across the district. We have built a bond plan to try to help find different packages and different projects in different areas of the county. So it takes the whole county. When we go to a bond, to put a bond on the ballot, you may or may not be getting something in your specific area on this one, but to see what's planned ahead as we move through, there may be something on the next bond package that might be pertinent to your local school in your area. So as you can see, we've got several other schools that we're wanting to address and do some construction and in some cases be completely rebuilt and some will be remodeled.
And you can see in 16 on the previous slide, at the beginning, to the Poplar Elementary School that served this community. Oh, no, you don't have to go back, because it was several back, but when you saw the timeline, 2016, that bond was what got Poplar Elementary School and the renovations there. And then, of course, you can see Porter Ridge High School is a future project that is in dire needs of a field house for their athletics. Of course, if you've been to Porter Ridge High School in this community, you know the Hall Stadium for competition as well as baseball and softball is a significant distance from the school. And of course, those kids have to travel a long way to dress and do different things. So of course, we would like to, in a part of this 10-year capital plan, look at Marvin Ridge and Porter Ridge, who do not currently have field houses in place.
So bond funds, when you vote and we put a bond package together for the voting public, there are specific things. We can purchase land, like all of it's detailed out. We can do construction and renovation, we can acquire land, we can do any capital items, any apparatus as they call it, like some of the facilities, you know, all the equipment that goes into and the furniture that goes into those things. So that's what we use for the bond proceeds when we do those bonds. They're not used, as you can see, it's not used for staffing or anything else. It's really just for those tangible items that we need when we do those bond projects. So there's several FAQs, you know, what's a bond, those kind of things, and we brought some information if you want to see all of that. All of the bond information is on our website, this presentation along with FAQs and other documents. But I guess at this point, we can open it up for some questions if you want us to go through the FAQ slides in this presentation, or if you all have any questions that you would like to ask from what we've presented so far.
The only question I have for you is, last time we went through this, it was put to us very bluntly, but I liked it, that this is gonna happen, period. It's how it's gonna be financed, and bond is the best way to do it. Is that where we're at on this too? This project is gonna happen?
Bonds are the easiest way. It's like, I look at it like a 30-year mortgage. When you go to buy your house, you don't pay for it all at once. It's a good way for the county to be able to finance the needs of the county. And, bonds aren't just for schools. But it's a good way to finance it and be able to have a long-range plan so that when certain debt comes off, what you can afford to do with the next round of debt. And it's just a good way for us to plan as a county.
But this is gonna happen, period.
We have
You're
to
gonna-
upgrade our schools, and you may ask, we went through a significant renovation at Sun Valley High School, which was
Sure.
one of our original 6. We learned a lot of lessons from not starting over, like we tried to do upfit renovations, and quite frankly, it took well longer than it should have, and it was really a nightmare. So I don't want to just be as blunt, it's gonna happen regardless, but we are going to have to upfit and take care of our facilities. Because ultimately, you guys know, I don't know if you know, but we serve 41,000 students now. We're the 6th largest district in the state of North Carolina. And so ultimately, we're gonna have to take care of our facilities one way or the other.
Has there been a bond package that didn't pass?
Not to my knowledge.
I don't know that there has been one that failed.
So is most of this for upfits or is it for new schools as well?
So originally, when we went back with the Forest Hills design build, we were gonna build Forest Hills and East Union upfit at the same time. So we were gonna build Forest Hills, and then we we're gonna have the money set aside to upfit the Forest Hills now and move the middle school kids up, of course. Of course, when we went to, the county, it didn't make it on the bond in that round. So now we're actually with the upfit of the current Forest Hills. So it will not be a new school, but it'll be a major project to get it completely renovated with no kids in the building.
Right.
That was another lesson we learned at Sun Valley. We did all the upfits and renovations while we were still having school. And it was so challenging. So then that school would be upfit. We would move that group of students, and then we would have the design for Parkwood High School, which we intend to be a new school. But for it to be a new school, we're gonna have another bond, right? We're gonna have another bond.
So we're kind of breaking it up. The county kind of chose to break it into manageable pieces for funding purposes and to make sure that they can afford the debt, right? So there's always a tax increase attached to any bond package that you see, and it's all laid out in that bond language, what the cost would be to the individual taxpayer per 100,000 on a property bill. So it's, I think when you break it up a little bit and do the design piece, so the county doesn't have to issue the funds before they need the funds. That helps them pace when they need the money. You can do the design and then do the build, because 2 years between each one allows you that time to do that.
You said there's approximately 41,000 students. Is there projections, is that gonna raise significantly over coming up years, or what is the projection?
So we have had several studies. Several studies have shown that we will have growth in pockets. And of course, you can imagine with the new bypass, our building that you see around the bypass in this community. Of course, I've lived in this community my entire life, and so has Miss McLean. Our growth now is, of course, what we call the 485 corridor. We have some growth in Waxhaw as well. We also have some schools where enrollment is declining. So it's hard to say over the next 5 years exactly what it will look like. There's a lot of legislative agendas in the state, of course, that are impacting public schools with the private school vouchers. And so providing choice for some kids or some families. I know there was a vote today. I don't know how it turned out, but so there are going to be schools that continue to grow, and I think this community is going to grow. So, yes. So the other thing that was one of the FAQs, I just want to say, I want to be on record saying it because because we have had this question, it was a topic of discussion at our board meeting last week, what are we gonna do with the old East Union? Because that's really a historical building in our district, there's a lot of people asking that question, and there has been no decision yet. When this bond passes, then our board will make a decision at that point in time.
Any other questions? We appreciate your time, and we'll certainly,
Well, and if you think of any other questions or anything that you all might, have any follow-ups,
Yeah.
please feel free to reach out, we'll be glad to answer whatever, but, yeah, we just encourage everyone to go vote.
Right.
And so we appreciate your support.
so,
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh.
I say no.
Just waving aye.
All right, item 5 on the agenda is approval of the minutes, recent out the minutes, and the closed session minutes are going around as well. Is there a motion to approve the minutes as presented?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Steve made a motion, Jim second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Before we approve the consent agenda, I made a mistake on the agenda that went out. Lori reminded me that we had moved the food and all the stuff together in one line item. So your paper says 5325. It actually should be approving 6325 for National Night Out. Did anybody want anything pulled from the consent agenda? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended?
Motion to approve.
Jim has made a motion, Mark second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. You also have the agenda before you. Any requested changes, deletions, or additions to the agenda? Hearing none, is there a motion to set the agenda as presented?
I'll make a motion to set the agenda as presented.
Steve second motion, Bruce second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Deputy Head.
All right, so for August, total calls, 406. 363 of those self-initiated, 2 traffic stops. The only thing I see on here is the calls to service, which you're aware of, is the break-in and entering. And 6 alarms. Other than that, I don't really see anything unusual.
Wish there had been 7 alarms.
Yes.
There weren't. Any questions for Deputy Head?
Would you be interested in the dunk tank on National Night Out?
No, I've already answered that yesterday.
That sounds like a great idea.
You will.
Wouldn't believe what came up with it.
I said I'd do it as long as the weather's okay.
Anything else for Deputy? Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Item 9, Finance Office Report, Cheryl.
Okay, you have the August financial report. Early into the year, so there's no accounts that look in danger of going over. Are there any questions about any of the accounts?
Any questions for Cheryl on the financials?
Now I do have a update to the ARP ordinance, and this is to get the word they use, but to recoup the last part of the ARP funds that were given to the town, which is item 6 on the second page, $226,522 for law enforcement services for the period of April 1st, 2024 through March 31st, 2025. This sets up the budget, and then as we pay each quarterly for the deputies, I think I was going through it in my head. I think next January we'll have finished the whole 226,000, and then we'll have spent all our ARP funds. January 2025. Yeah. They just need to be budgeted by the end of 2024 and then spent by the end of 2026. So we're well within the time frame.
Is there a motion to approve the amended Village of Lake Park, North Carolina grant project ordinance?
Make that motion.
Mark's made a motion,
One second.
Bruce second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Uh,
I have one other item, on the balance sheet, the first page, there's an account called overpayment of property tax, it's a liability, $460.58, and it's to Amgrade Protops Properties. Can you tell me what happened there? They were paying the whole county's taxes, right?
No, they had an old bill and they didn't think they had paid it. And they paid it on the credit card. It wasn't like we could just mail the check back, so we need to refund this money.
You want to refund?
Yeah, $460.58 to Amgrade.
Is there a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Joe made a motion.
I'll second.
Jim. Steve second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
That's all I have.
Thank you. Stormwater, Sheree, and Bruce.
We can do a duet.
Sure. You want to go first? You want me
I'll
to?
let you go first.
Okay. Well, the good news is the Sages Pond head wall has been completed. The Christopher Channel engineering and concrete upgrade, we went back to the engineer and expressed concerns about the velocity and elevation. And we've requested a quote to have the channel surveyed about every 50 feet. Because the drawings that we have were 2017. And contractors have expressed concerns about the fall. Is that fall correct? Did it stay the same from 2017 or did it change? And the only way we're gonna know that is to have it surveyed.
The
So,
concern is the velocity of the water in a heavy storm
yeah,
to move too fast and cause more damage than correction.
well, it could cause down at the end where the riprap is at Queens, we could have another pond.
Right.
So that's what we've got to check into. And we had a very nice meeting with Union Power. Other municipalities, when they're digging multiple stormwaters, and since we seem to continue to have opportunities, they have let us know that we need pre-construction meetings. Now, we can have pre-construction meetings and have 4 or 5 projects that we've had the utilities identified, know where we're gonna work and all, but we have to meet with them for them to tell us, and the example I'm gonna use is over here on Kloss and the townhomes. Not only is there major power through there, but there's also minor power. We ran into the same thing over at Christopher between Jean's house and her next door neighbor. So the main line was identified, but the secondary power line was not identified. So we ended up by accident cutting the power to a resident's home. On Kloss Lane, we met with Darren and Kyle with Union Power. And they went over, this is where this line is, we'll cut the major power from this point, between these 2 points. We'll cut the secondary power through here, and yet we're not having any residents experience a power outage. So that's the optimal, plus you never want to cut a wire that's a major power source because we don't need OSHA.
One thing we found out, which I didn't know, and I don't know if Sherry knew that, calling in for a locate doesn't always go through Union Power, doesn't go through Union Power, it's a separate division that handles the locate. So unfortunately, they missed a primary and a secondary line on Christopher, correct?
Yep.
And so 2 lines got cut. They were taken care of right away by Union Power. It was not the fault of the construction company or the village's fault, thank goodness. Otherwise, it would have been a heck of a bill. But it was the locate's responsibility. So that's why these pre-construction meetings are now going to become
They're
mandatory.
mandatory. So as we move forward, we're going to prepare, for example, we know that we have one at Lincoln. We know we've got the Christopher Channel that we're looking at. And we have one down here at Lake Park Road and Trevor Simpson that we're looking at. So
And eventually Frost, when we get.
yes,
around
and
to that.
Frost. So we'd like to combine, but we would have to have, it starts out by having all the utilities located, then Union Power comes out. But it actually starts before that with Eagle and the repair and everything so that we know. But right now, Union Power's a month out on their meetings, but we can schedule multiple and move right along. So we do have that. And the Cross Lane and Margaret Court, if everything continues to move along positively, that will be completed by the end of this week. Christopher 3618 and 3620 has been completed. And on Monday, I sent you all the RFQ that was bits and pieces from Ken and I on the stormwater. And I have included a copy of that in your packet. With council's approval, we'd like to send that out, put it in, put it on the stormwater engineering listserv and get it out in general that we are looking and see if we can get some people to respond to the request for qualifications. So we've got those. And the other thing I have is we are down to our last box of bags for the pet waste stations. The price break to order so that we don't have to pay shipping will cost, I need a motion to approve $1,419.90 for pet poopy bags,
How many of those bags does that give us?
10 cases.
How long does that last?
Depends on how much they poop.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I'll make the motion to approve the, what was it, $1,400? $1,920 for dog waste bags.
I'll second.
Bruce second, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion
We
carries.
did Wilson in trouble.
What account will that come on?
It just comes out of stormwater repair and maintenance services, because that's a maintenance.
I have a question on that, just for thought.
Mhm.
Been in some other communities and use their bags that they've had there, and they have actually advertising on their bags, and I found out that they get people to advertise to help defray the cost of the bags,
Mhm.
not pay for them all, but help defray the cost. Is that something that?
Yeah, if you can find a vendor and figure out how to do that and sell it, we'd love for you to do that. I can't take on, my plate is full right now.
Call Wendy.
Marcus Carl.
Yeah.
Okay, so Joe Scaldera made the motion, Bruce seconded, thank you.
But how many bags you're getting? A lot of bags.
Yeah,
10 cases.
Yeah, for them to get personalized, that many cases.
I don't know. You'd have
I don't know.
you'd have to figure out,
How
yeah.
many do we use a year? Do we know?
I can add that up and send it to you.
That'd be a good thing.
I bet we do it twice a year.
That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah, it's 2 or 3 times, yeah.
At least 2, definitely.
Is there any liability in case something goes wrong with the advertiser on the bag that says, well, the village is promoting this advertising? It's not a place.
Maybe it might pull down to who you're choosing to advertise or what you're advertising, perhaps.
Yeah, but
Likely.
what could go wrong?
Throw it in the trash.
A kid suffocates on a kid.
We haven't so far.
Back to the RFQ, did everybody have a chance to look that over? Any questions or comments? Sure you can, or Ken, you got any further?
No, the only thing I want to make sure of is that we get this, don't you, didn't you vote to have one of these engineering projects utilize a different vendor?
We did.
So I need to make sure we get this.
Oh, yeah.
And
they both
because
did.
it'll be, the way these things work is that you get this request for qualifications, and I did it on broad mapping, the drainage, repair, claiming, all those kinds of things. And the way it typically works is that there's an initial kind of generalized contract that, puts you in a position where you're gonna be using that individual on, I think, just about every one of these, if you can agree to a contract on the individual projects. So I just wanna make sure that I didn't know how that was going, but that was something that I think you wanna make sure he gets it. I think it's a he.
Yeah, it is. Any questions on that RFQ? Is there a motion to move forward with Sheree posting that up? Put it out?
I'll make a motion.
All right, your stormwater guy.
Bruce made a motion, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Is there a second? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Anything else? Stormwater.
That's all I have, Bruce. Have you got anything else?
No, just I was down Klaus Lane a couple of times today and yesterday. They're moving along. That pipe, the pipe itself is about 7 foot down in the ground. That's how deep they gotta go. So we're moving along, but it's a lot.
Information only from Park and Rec, the membership income for the pool season looks like it ended at 73,619, up a little bit significantly from last year. Walk-up income 20,625, which is down a little bit from last year. Pulled those numbers off the pool reports and the budget, so they may vary a little bit if things change, but that should be pretty close. It's interesting about the walk-up. Maybe the people that walked up last year bought memberships, and that's why that's up. I don't know. You know, we did increase membership a little bit, but
We also, camps made a difference.
yeah.
Did we have to give some money back for a camp that the country
Yeah.
on? How much was that? Do we remember?
$990.
Just as a matter of information, I think I sent this out, I know I did, just so you know, for a long time, Ron Andrews was our manager of our community for Lucas. And Ron had gotten ill and just not able to continue. He's still working for Lucas. He's actually been out here doing some side work with Lucas, not side work, but different than just managing the team. So we got a new community manager. His name's Adam Pearl. We've met with him. He's been very responsive. Ricardo Morris, who is the gentleman that used to do Monday, Wednesday, Friday, pet station, garbage bags, all that. He's the community leader, if you will. So he's very familiar with all the areas in the village, and he and Adam are working together kind of to manage it. And I would say in the past month, it's been a dramatic increase or a dramatic improvement in services and things that have been going on. And I didn't know Ron had been sick, but after it all came to light, it kind of made sense of what was going on there. Park and Rec talked about the facility rental policy. And Sheree's doing some investigative work with like Indian Trail and other towns to find out some things in their policies that we'll talk about. But one of the things that came up at Park and Rec meeting was, what does council want? What would drive you to believe council should approve something over Park and Rec approving it for a rental? So in other words, is there an occupancy load? Somebody puts down there's 500 people, council thinks it should come to council for approval. Some of the no-brainers that Park and Rec discussed, and Sheree, correct me if I'm wrong in this, where, if there's gonna be any food trucks, any vendors, anything kind of more than a birthday party or a wedding event, then it would come to council. Particularly if there's any kind of vendors involved or anything for profit, I think is what we actually said. But I wanted to ask you guys, are there other things that you would like to see in the policy that says, right there from word go, this person's gonna know you're gonna go to Park and Rec and then it's gonna go to council. We did get, just as a matter of information, we requested the occupancy load for the gazebo from the county. So this I believe takes into account for the gazebo and the paved area out front. But it'd be 100 chairs. If there were only standing people, the occupancy load's 140. And if you were set up tables and chairs, 47. We kind of that last event that came up, the lady came to council, we asked some questions of how many people. Because you're renting the gazebo, not the park, so how many people could you really fit in that gazebo? What's a number that would be legitimate? So Park and Rec said, I think that the right thing would be look at the numbers of what the county allows and go with those numbers. Savings. If you apply and have those numbers or less, then it's not really any kind of special event. Thoughts, comments?
Yeah, what's the, let's say for instance, we have a certain count, say 100 people or whatever, and do they sign up on the, the request to get this area on the form, whatever, the forms we looked at last time? And do they put down by invitation only, or general public is invited? How do we know there's gonna be 100 people there type thing?
Most people that are renting the gazebo are not like the nonprofit group that we had. So in answer to your question, if, let's say somebody wants to rent it and it's a wedding and they're saying there's 100 people. And they're just gonna have the ceremony there. Fine. But if they're gonna have the ceremony and then they're gonna want to put up tents to serve the meal and everything, at that point, even though it's not a for-profit, I would lean toward them needing to come to council to say, just simply because all of a sudden you're taking up more than the gazebo itself.
Right.
So if you're setting up tents and you've got this, food and all of that, and parking is gonna kind of drive that too. Now if you've got a wedding and there's gonna be 50 people and they're gonna get married and then they're gonna go over to, I don't know, La Unica's for the reception, fine. But if they're wanting to set up tents and have a dance floor and a DJ because all of a sudden that's using up a majority of your park. So does that answer your question?
Yeah.
One of the things that one of the commissioners said was if they put down 50, but then 100 people show up, it's an open park, so what are you gonna do? You can't do anything.
Well, it's 50 in the gazebo and brick area, I'm assuming.
Mhm.
So outside of that, if it's 100 people, they're not on there, then there's no foul.
Right, and I think that's what he was saying was how would you enforce it? Let's just say they put down 50, but then 150 showed up. It's public park and they're out in the park. What are you gonna do?
How much you
Run
can
them
do
off? I mean, if they came out and they started setting up tents or tables and anything else and they hadn't got that approval, the answer would be they wouldn't be able to rent it again for sure. I mean, you'd have to deal with it on the backside, but.
But we're gonna know if they wanna hold the reception there, or just
Right.
ceremony.
Right.
So,
I think those numbers are high.
I was shocked at how high the numbers were.
I don't see 47 tables and chairs, especially out there.
That's 47 people behind tables and chairs.
Oh, I
Yeah.
thought you said.
Yeah,
47
no.
chairs.
47.
It says 47 tables and chairs.
What's in your
Well,
water?
Let's see, what's in the tables and chairs?
It's a little confusing when you say it's a public park.
yes,
The park belongs to the village of Lake Park.
right,
It is not state governed,
right.
but as a public park, are we governed by any kind of law where we can forbid people to use it?
Yes,
We do
Yes.
have laws that
yes.
cover that.
We have, in the case of vandalism, banned someone from the park, from a park or from a facility. Yes, ma'am.
But we can't blanket, is that what you're asking? Like, we
Yeah.
just say, you have to be a resident of Lake Park to use this? Is that what you're
Well,
saying?
if it's a public park, that indicates that it could be anybody from outside of Lake Park that come in and can use it.
Right,
I mean, that's the way my brain works.
Same with community building. Anybody can rent a community building.
Yeah. So if it's public, do we get into some kind of discrimination law or some weird thing that turns around and bites us?
You're overthinking.
Well, yeah, I usually do.
Anything you guys can think of other than vendors, for profit?
Are we setting a precedent? In other words, can, let's say, we have a horrible next year with these things getting out of hand, or whatever, we say no more or whatever?
I think that's what this is getting in front of
Really
that,
limit it
that
down.
this is allowing us to get in front of that,
Yeah,
as opposed to having a bad one, we'd hope at least.
Yeah.
And if it change, and then if it turns out that we run into a problem with that, then we have to go back and change it again.
What if somebody wanted to have any kind of liquor, beer, wine?
they can't
That's
do
against the parks
that.
ordinance.
Yeah.
The one thing that it's kind of same but different, there was an occasion where somebody rented the gazebo for a birthday party or something, and had a big blow up slide out there.
And they had to provide a certificate
have
of
that?
liability.
Okay.
Yes, sir. That had to be insured. It has
I didn't
to
know
be-
if you knew about
Yes,
that,
sir.
if it was, or if somebody just showed up for a party and brought it.
If they're doing any type of blow up, anything that's going on the ground, they're gonna have to have liability.
Those are the types of things I think we need to know about, council needs to know about.
Mhm.
Petting zoo,
Colors.
whatever.
Now, if I wanna have a birthday party and I wanna have a petting zoo out there, once again, they have to provide a certificate of insurance,
So, I'm
which
not saying
we,
it's not, they can't
yeah,
do it.
you know, which we've done in the past.
Just guidelines that have to be followed.
Yeah,
Which they
and
get
if
told
they
about
can't
before they
provide
take it
that,
on.
they have to provide that a week before the event.
Right.
And if they can't do that, then I'm sorry, you can't have that.
But I think council needs to be made aware of those things, or we won't know to stop or not stop it, right? Or have conversations, not have conversations.
Okay. If there's something that trips the insurance, certificate of insurance, then you're wanting to be informed.
At least it's warned. I'm
Okay.
not saying we have a right. Not, or like Joe said, he sees a slide out there.
It didn't know, and he
Doesn't
thought
know
somebody brought
Somebody
that.
brought, just put it up, or they actually.
That started with a Facebook post, right?
Yeah, there was a picture of it, like, what's going on here?
So when you're saying informed, if we're having this, you talk, what if someone, and I'm just throwing this out, we have a meeting tonight, someone comes in tomorrow for 2 weeks, they want to have a party, you want to email information, but you can't have it at the meeting, it's going to happen before the next meeting.
That's fine, you can email it to us.
I have a feeling if somebody got something that needs a certificate of insurance for it, they're doing it more than 2 weeks out.
Most
It usually takes more time than that to get that together.
But I also think anything big like the last event, we ought to have a say in it, right?
That's
Which
the
was the
whole point.
for profit would have triggered that one, because the food trucks are for profit. If anything's gonna be there for profit, that would trigger
And
that.
the vendors and food truck.
Would any of these potentially complicate street closure?
Anything that would be a street closure would.
Definitely.
That's already here, right? It's already.
But you-
Yeah, all that's already been asked for.
And let me make sure we're clear on what Steve was saying, your answer. I think more than anything, you're saying if something triggers insurance,
He wants to
email
know.
it out so that
Yeah.
we know that this is going on in the park and you might see a
Yeah.
petting zoo or whatever there.
Or a castle blow up or an inflatable of some sort.
That way we know if we see somebody with a donkey having a cart, they're riding around Lake Park selling rides on it. No. We know whether they're supposed to be here or not, right?
Things that are covered.
Just for example.
All right. Our next meeting is September 23rd, and we'll be talking about landscape proposals. And National Night Out will be October 1st, that'll be before we meet again, so use help at National Night Out. Might have a different, we may have some interesting things show up this year at National Night Out. We believe we were approved today for one of the medical helicopters to come out, so that'll be kind of cool. We've not done it before. To land a helicopter out there and let everybody look at it. So,
And there may be, weather permitting, a dump tank. It would be great to have council people
I heard Joe volunteered.
I said I'll do it as long as it's not cold.
I only take showers.
Sheree said she'll do it too.
Oh,
so.
no, Sheree will not.
Planning board, Steve?
Yeah, so last planning board meeting was August 20th. We covered a few things. We had somebody that one of our residents showed up, had some questions around basically a fence. They were questioning if planning board wanted to change the dimensions where the airflow on the wood fence. So the planning board left with thoughts around that they want to go back and look at their notes because they just changed that recently, last 6 months or so for the UDO. So they went back with that. We don't know anything till the next meeting, which next week or so is the next meeting. So we'll talk about that. You can have a vinyl fence, you can have a shadow box fence, but the straightforward wood fence, I think it's 20% airflow it's supposed to have. So that was one item we talked about. We, Elliot got sworn in. He was here that night. Sarah, the other person was not. So Rachel, yes, we didn't do that. And then we had the proposed UDO text amendment that came up. So I think everybody got that in their packages or in an email.
Oh,
Yeah, it was a red line copy of the email as well. So anybody get a chance to look at that? Anybody have any questions on it?
It looks like they want to try to get alternates.
That's basically what's for, is try to get alternates, so they can have, if they have a night where they don't have enough people here, they can pull the alternates in. The alternates would be at all the meetings as well. Be expected to be at all the meetings as well.
So question, the way I read this, and it just could be me, the way I'm reading this, is, it says on page 2-5, under 2.2.5, voting final approval, it says regular and seated alternate members present. That they could alternates would also be able to
Yes.
vote.
Only if they were seated at the table, right?
Okay, seated.
Which means you have a regular member absent.
So we have regular folks absent.
Or conflicted.
Do they have somebody that's interested in being an alternate or?
no.
I mean, I just know that they're a person
They-
short.
they
been
still have a person
for a
short.
I think
while.
right now you're probably filling.
Yeah, that's,
Steve, yeah.
And they were hoping this might help resolve that in the future if they have a person
Person
leave,
there,
or one
you got it.
alternate's not want to step up to be on the board. But you're right, we got to fill the regular first and then try to fill the alternates.
The next step is, so they're proposing this UDO
Yes,
amendment, correct? Next step would be a public hearing for that, is that correct?
well, yes. Good.
But we would not do this tonight.
Yeah, and I don't think we do this tonight.
No.
Because we have to have a public hearing
That's
first.
just, yeah.
Correct. And essentially what you got there in front of you is just like very similar to the special use permit. You gotta have the findings of consistency,
Reasonableness.
reasonableness.
They're tailored to what's being changed.
So any motion needed other than approving the public hearing?
I'll make a motion to hold a public hearing for these text amendments.
At the October, regular October.
Yeah,
Second motion. Steve made a motion, Joe second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, Steve. Waste collection? Yeah.
Nothing out of the ordinary. I mean, there's still a couple little things happening with Waste Pro and some residents, but that's nothing out of the ordinary.
Sent Jim a text message the other day of a hot load over in Mint Hill. And it's only because I never really heard of a hot load until we were in our contract deal. And there was some discussions about how much that fine, I thought I would have. And it's just ironic that today there's one in Monroe Fire posted. It was blazed, dumped out. So
And that's waste.
that's, Mint Hill was definitely waste pro.
Well, Monroe has a waste pro contract.
it could have been someplace outside of the city limits though.
Monroe Fire was there. They might have been assisting them, but yeah. The
was a
Monroe
white
Fire
truck,
posted
so-
the picture, the tail of it was white, it was up and all the trash was out.
And we're flames.
Within the last 4 days, 2 of those, and we're right in the middle of those 2 towns. Streets and sidewalks, Bruce?
Well, nothing really, as far as issues with sidewalks, I've only had one person email me with a request. Walking around, driving around, I haven't seen much myself. I was staying in pretty good shape so far. Put a crosswalk in at Mother Teresa and, I was forget the name of that road. Ginger. I was gonna say Glendale, but that's not it. Ginger. The striper's got to come back for Trevor Simpson. He's on vacation this week. He will get to it. And then I'm having signs made for caution, pedestrian crossing, that will be reflective at night. So this way, when people are doing 70 miles an hour and they see it, they can slow down to 40. Okay, as they drive fast around that curve. So hopefully they'll drive slower.
Thank you, Bruce.
Okay.
Lighting electrical, Joe?
All right, you guys no longer have to listen to me talk about the wiring for the clock tower. Cherie found a wiring plan that showed a pull box that I was able to locate this weekend. And that was where the exact problem was with the wiring. Found it not very deep, as you can see in the first picture with it, and inside of it, there was only 2 screws, 2 of the 4 screws in there that were holding it together. So it was leaking water in there. That's why when we had heavy rains, we were having problems with it. And it finally just totally deteriorated the wire, the connection. I was able to just strip it back and splice it back together and put it back together and moved all of the amplifier and the controller back into the storage room, and works great. Now I can set it when it's 2 minutes off, so Steve isn't late for his appointments, and have no more issues with that. That was, I've been worried about that. I thought that was gonna be a big deal, and Sheree did a good job of finding those plans. That was like gold when we saw that. That worked out great. So
Where was that box? Where was that box?
it's right, that's at the curb, and then where the pavers are that go up to it right here, the closest one right here. And I have a wire locator. I was able to hook into the wire right here, and it just go right off the map where it said the exact distance. I stuck it down right there, it started beeping, and it was like 6 inches deep. I couldn't believe it worked so easy. I was not expecting that. Usually it doesn't work that good.
Are you gonna have issues with water again?
Well, I had to, 2 of the screws were so corroded, the 2 screws were there so corroded, I had to drill them out. There was no head left on them, so I drilled them out. One of them I was able to get the whole screw out of. If you see on the top part, top right,
Yeah.
I got the whole part of the bolt out, and the bottom one, it just wouldn't come out. So I went to Lowe's and I got 3 stainless steel screws, so that hopefully they won't corrode as bad. And put those, I put the 3 in the holes, and then the 4th one, I drilled down at a slight angle to go to another side and put it in there. So it feels like it's pretty tight. So I think it'll probably last longer than the original 20 years that it lasted. So
Another 20 years.
it'll be somebody else's problem. Yeah. So,
I know, I won't worry about it then.
so that issue is taken care of. Like I said, that was a worry for me. I thought that was gonna be a big problem, but that worked itself out. So that was very good for that. Something that just found out later today, so I haven't really put anything on the slideshow for it or not. We've been talking about an issue with a light that we had on Meeting Street for quite some time that a Waste Pro truck backed into. We had issues with trying to find a light that would fit the bolt pattern that was there so that we could use the existing form that was there. We were worried about a crack in it. The Union Power people looked at it. They said that the crack's not a structural problem with it whatsoever. And as it would work out, one of the lights that we had to take down with costs with the construction doing there on stormwater,
Around close.
right there on Floss, that light was the right bolt pattern. So we put that light there, and Union Power put a new light in a little bit different location, the same area, but a little bit different location. It was better. It worked straight to the ground, and they did that for us at free of charge. So it all ended up, it took a long time, but it all worked out. So that's all taken care of.
And that's, thank you, Sherry, for thinking of that while we were meeting with the gentleman from Union Power. And said, wait a minute, can we do this? Walked over to Meeting Street and they said, yes, we can. And we said, do it.
So that all worked out well, so that's taken care of.
She's gonna get a bill for the new light.
No,
No, they didn't bill us.
No, to present to Waste Pro.
No, they're not billing us for that.
they're not billing us.
So which pro gets off scot-free?
Wow.
Yeah, okay, I'll leave it to you. Enough said.
That's at least one free hot dog.
At least. Good point. Ordinance review.
All right, we met this last month for ordinance review, went over several different items. Get my notes out here real quick. First off, the first thing that we were gonna work on to get done and quick was the addition to restrict mini bikes on the road, or excuse me, on sidewalks. Like our deputies have asked us to find a way to prohibit them, because there's nothing in any of the ordinances that actually stops that. And we're talking about mini bikes, we're talking about the small motorcycles. So Steve worked on the ordinance for that and found some definitions and some other ordinances, put it together. And it was very simple and easy thing. So I said, let's just do this one first. We'll get this over to the attorney and get it so we can get it taken care of. And Ken proved to us real quick that he went to law school and we did. There's an issue with mini bikes that might bring it into being challenged. There is a definition, basically our definition for mini bikes is basically the same thing that the general statute in chapter 20 defines as a motorcycle. And there are e-bikes, which are exactly the opposite of that, and we already have into the ordinance. So by putting it in there as mini bikes, it leaves it open to challenge. And the question is, are we that worried about it leaving it open to challenge? Because it's mainly used as a rule, not as something that we're writing tickets for. It's something so we can just tell people, hey, stop doing it. Now, if we went ahead, we could take the ordinance as written with the mini bikes and ask the sheriff's department's attorney if, what he thinks of it and whether he approves of their officers enforcing it that way or not, would be one avenue, and see what they say about that. Another avenue is we do have the ability with general statute to write an ordinance for streets and sidewalks. And that might be a better way of going. It's more work, but it might be a better way of going, because as I was mentioning to Ken earlier, we kind of just threw the mini bikes into the same ordinance with the skateboards and the scooters and everything, because we're thinking them as toys, but it's kind of doesn't really fit great in that ordinance. So looking for a little bit of direction on that, of whether we want to go back to the drawing board and make and start a street and sidewalks ordinance that we can put straight out, no motorcycles on sidewalks, and maybe address some other issues that we might need to, or just go ahead and roll with asking the sheriff's department what they think about that ordinance and see if they'll let them enforce it, or even if they won't let them enforce it, still have it, because I mean, there's no definition in the general statute for a skateboard either, but we have that on there as it being a rule is what we really need it for. We're not looking at locking up and putting anybody in jail for riding a motorcycle.
I'd say the sheriff's department is the best place to start.
Ken, could we turn and change that to say no registered or unregistered bike motorcycles on sidewalks?
I mean, it all boils down to, I was surprised to find out myself that there's no legislative definition. It's all contained within chapter 20 that defines different but vehicles of different natures. And so it's kind of, in some ways, it makes it unique a little bit. But for the purpose that you're using it for, I think that, and I suggest this too, is that if the sheriff's department said grace over it, then just run with it and make somebody, challenge the definitional question marks with it. That's probably not gonna happen anyway. And as Joe said, this isn't being used to hand out tickets and citations to people. It's an enforcement mechanism, a rule mechanism for safety purposes. Or alternatively, do what Paul suggests, which is carve out yourself a sidewalk ordinance that addresses it. It'll be in similar fashion, but
If we start getting into
there
it,
may be
many
other things,
start getting into talking about registered vehicles and all that, it doesn't really belong in that ordinance.
Right.
It needs to be in the streets and sidewalk ordinance, so. Like I said, it's very similar to what we have, and we changed with it, so whichever way to go with it, I'm fine. I don't mind even just moving forward right now and sending it to having you send it to.
I mean, whoever, if you want me to do it or we do it ourselves, I was just gonna suggest that whoever does it probably should preface the inquiry with, at the request of the officers, we've done this, we just want to make sure you're okay with it,
I can do that and then get back with it next month and see how we do on that. So we'll work with that and see what we can do there. The next thing that we had on our agenda was talking about parking. There were several issues that wanted to go over. One of them was brought to our attention by the deputies again, that our ordinance our ordinance prohibits parking within 30 feet of an intersection. However, there's several places throughout the village that we have designated parking spaces within 30 feet of the intersection. So the question came up, do we want to change the 30-foot area to accommodate what we already have in the parking, and alternatively, and what we came up with is to change the ordinance to have something in it stating unless otherwise designated.
There you
As far as
go.
parking
That's
spaces.
a three-word fix, isn't it? Yeah.
That's what we figured the best thing to do. We thought for safety purposes, leaving 30 foot is probably a good idea. And just put that into it unless otherwise designated, and that would make everybody happy.
Covers all the bases.
So I think that's the way we want to go with that one. We also discussed RV parking. We had a resident that was bringing their RV to their house to clean out before they were going on vacation, and the deputies told them you can't park your car, or you can't park the RV there. We started looking into what would be considered temporary parking for an RV. We came to the conclusion that we'd like to do something with 4 hours. We still have it where we have it can be parked for 4 hours for cleaning, loading, unloading. You'd still have to leave 12 feet of travel room in between, just like you would have any other parking. So they'd have to come in with that. But there also came up a question in between with it talking about travel trailers and how they're classified, whether they're classified the same as an actual trailer, and whether they fall under the fact of if it's hooked up to an automobile, is it okay? We'll make sure we don't make that kind of working together. We have to make sure that's separate with it, because that's the last thing we want is to have somebody parking on the street with a travel trailer hooked up to the back of their car and saying, hey, it's a trailer, and how it's signified. So we're still working on that. Something we're gonna get with you on a little bit of definition of that to work with.
I think I read something recently that said on a travel trailer that is considered an RV as well.
I think so too.
I don't know how I read that, but I think I read that.
I thought it was too. I know that, that an actual utility trailer is registered as a trailer is a different registration than the RV. We were back and forth on that, and I did look into that part, so.
Well, I thought we already have the ordinance where it says you can't sleep in your vehicle. So if it's attached,
it becomes part of the vehicle, so.
They might not be sleeping.
But they might be sleeping in it, you still don't want it
I
parked out
know
there.
what they do.
Yeah, but we don't want them to park it out front of their house, or because you park your vehicle out there, park it out in front of their house for a day or two, right?
Yeah.
So that's what we're trying.
Basically, we want to make sure that that we don't hurt ourselves on that end of it too, so that's where we're working on that. And basically, that was the majority of everything with our meeting. Our next meeting is going to be on October 15th, maybe sooner if we have something else to go on to. May have to move October 15th because we do have some people that are in the financial industry that may need to not be able to make October 15th, which is our delinquent taxpayer time. So
Do you need a motion to amend the parking ordinance to add those words? Is that?
we're not at that yet. I want to get the ordinance out and bring that. I want to bring an ordinance in and we'll do that. It should be a minor change that we don't need a hearing
Does the
on.
state have a definition of RV out there somewhere?
Of an
Oh, yeah.
RV?
Oh,
RV.
I
absolutely.
believe so, yeah.
Well, look at that and see if that
Yeah.
includes the travel trailer.
Yeah, the travel trailer, the signification between a travel trailer and a utility trailer is
Yeah,
that.
Steve, I gave Joe the link to 24.01, and that's got
All that.
What was that again, 20 what?
20-4.01, I think it is. It has all the definitional things under chapter 20. Now, it's starting to be careful because it'll start to refer you out to other legislative areas, but generally that's where to start for
Yeah.
definitional things.
I'll forward you the email that Ken sent me that has the link on that, so you can look through that too as well. So, yeah, I'll send it to you too on that, so we have that to move forward with it.
Did y'all talk at all about, orange vans,
Orange vans.
like whether they're commercial?
Yes, we did talk about not particularly orange vans, but about adding into, commercial vehicles as defined in chapter 20. We are gonna put that into when we come up with all of our parking,
Okay,
it is going to have that, going back to what commercial vehicles are defined as and how they are.
that would be great.
And it might not be orange vans.
Might be blue ones, but we need some help with that.
Yeah. Technology, back on.
All right, technology, we're pretty straight on everything. I still have to look at Sharice's phone, but, it doesn't ring on Fridays. I think she likes it that way, but
I just have to return the call.
we're gonna get that fixed. This just started with a conversation that Jeremy and I just were having one day. And then somebody said something on Facebook about it and it brought up a question, and it goes back to when we were even talking about the pool fees at the beginning of this past season, when we were talking about what we were gonna set the fees on. We had the guest passes at $10. We're saying, should we go up on that? And Sharice said, hey, it's gonna cause a big problem to change. You go up to $12, you're gonna need a lot of ones and fives, and it's gonna go through a lot. A lot of questions came up last season about, using debit cards. So I've started looking into talking to a payment processor that the one I know that I've used before in my business, talk with her about it, and she most definitely, we can come up with a system that we can get a terminal at no charge that works either through our Wi-Fi or works separate cellular, that there's a fee on the cellular one. Whereas the one that works through Wi-Fi, there's no additional fee. However, there is a minimum amount that we wouldn't reach, a minimum processing fee that we wouldn't reach on our months that we're not doing the pool. So she's looking into something for us for seasonal that we can do, that I can get the Parks and Rec to see if it's something that we want to look into.
Wouldn't you want to use like our current, don't you have to pay like 3% with them on each?
There's fees, there are fees, and there is no set fee when you get into all that.
Right.
It's crazy when you get your merchant statement. I don't know what our fees are, what we have
Zero.
currently. Zero?
Zero,
So does the fee go to the user?
yes.
It goes to the end user. There are processes we can set up on that. I didn't talk with them about that because my processor knows I hate that. As far as on my end of it, I think that's poor business planning on my end. I know this is different.
This is.
Yeah, I'm not saying that, so so she knows I don't like that part of it, so we didn't even talk about that. That is something that we can look into. I was more looking into whether there was an availability of what the availability and cost would be on a terminal that would be sitting out there at the gate
Okay.
that worked wirelessly.
Because Cheryl and I talked about potentially, I mean, there's nothing to prevent you right now from logging onto our website, putting in your information, paying for it, and then printing out and bringing it to the kids saying, I just paid, and here's my receipt, that they could physically have something, or to show you on your phone that we just paid that, and it would be at no cost to us. I'll be glad to reach out to our current vendor. That's the reason we use that vendor. It does not cost us anything. Excuse me, for lack of a better term, it's a convenience fee. And it's, anything less than $100. I think it's $100 is $1. And then after that, it goes up. I don't remember, but anyway, there is a minimum charge to the user. Just to see, because we could add there, but it's gonna be a matter of, yes, either a terminal or how we would do that. And then my other concern is, all of a sudden, you've got kids that have, not saying it would happen, but what would be our liability in kids having someone's, if they take the credit card and run it, taking that number.
Involving somebody that's not an employee,
Employee of the
16-year-old
town.
lifeguard.
I mean, I don't know, maybe I'm overthinking that.
But people can pay for a season pass or for
Yeah,
dailies.
they
with
could-
credit card.
Yeah, like if I'm in the office, I'll take a daily, we just don't do it, in general.
Saturdays,
I think that
weekends.
you can implement some sort of policy on that you have to have the authorized person whose name's on the credit card be the one who's
Yeah,
resident that Jones got, every time I go, it was like most times I go on vacation somewhere, I go to places where they're saying, I need to see your ID before I use your credit card.
Yeah, but she's not talking about that, she's talking about our liability with the third party vendor being the pool company,
taking
swiping the
the
card for us.
Well,
They're-
But now, see, that's changed a lot lately too. You don't hand your card over anymore.
Right.
You hand them the machine, they stick the card in. You don't even look at the card. That takes that person out of that process now. You either tap the card or stick the chip in.
Pointed at it.
You don't actually hand the card over to the person at almost anywhere anymore. It's all, passive for that reason, because the only place you still do that in restaurants are the ones that have more.
It's, a lot of those actually don't do it anymore.
They bring you a machine.
Bring a
you
machine
do
to your
it.
table. Right.
Can people call a number or do they have to go to a website to pay by credit card?
They have to go to the website to pay back.
They can do
I
that
agree
on
there
their
needs to
phone.
be something to make electronic payment, right?
The website payment is convoluted. You gotta go to 40 different pages, click here, find bills at Lake Park, drop down, find what you're paying for. Now, if they could hot link it to Pool Pass and you can push it, that's a different story, but it's, to go do that now is.
Well, then that's fine, just bring the $40.
The other thing is it gets confusing. It's been a lot of time and confusion between
We have to
Sarah and me
balance.
and the bank and, money comes in, who is it from and what is it for?
Yeah, but even though it's got a link, we could certainly work on it. I'll reach
We'll
out.
just see
to
what
our
solutions that
vendor, too.
processor has too. They
Yeah,
might have a terminal solution that we could use.
right.
Like I said, my main thing was to see what was available for us to use out there,
Seasonal.
and being seasonal too, because like I said, the company I talked to that I do business with was willing to provide a terminal for us at no cost and this, and that, but they have a minimum monthly. She was checking to see if they have a seasonal, if they do. We can do that.
The other thing is when we did it, we had to open another bank account at this third, just for the credit card payments, and it gets confusing. It's caused many of,
We've funded money before. which
yeah,
you
we.
wouldn't think that
yeah,
would be
and
the case, but
Like,
it happens.
3 people can pay the same day, and 2 of them will clear today, and 1 will clear tomorrow.
Just depending on the time the cards.
Yeah.
Start adding a budget, $12 here or $10 there. and I'll
$10
see how that ends.
Yeah, that's it exactly. So, but I'll also check with our vendor and see what they've got. We can do it on our side too.
Yeah,
That's it. Nothing else technology, unless there's any other questions.
special project updates, anything the land use,
We're moving along. I mean, they're still working at it.
and then the update on the Schwall
Yes.
company.
So I know 2 months ago, council made the motion 3 months ago to approve the sale of the land. And what I don't know is if we need a new motion now that we know that we're talking about 2,500 square feet. And you can see the existing, now that we know that this is what's going to be added to their parcel number, do we need a motion being more detailed than, yes, we were going to sell? Because at that time, we really didn't know how much land that
I
was.
guess I thought at the time the motion contemplated a survey occurring
Yes,
and approval based on the results of the survey.
Okay.
I mean, if you want to be overly conservative, you can approve it as general survey the second time, or you can go with what you have. If it's easier or, more, gives you more comfort, just go ahead and do it as it says it's shown on the survey.
I just want to make sure that you all are comfortable with what we're selling here.
Yeah, because that's somehow different than what was contemplated or.
No, but it's one thing to stand out there and say,
Yeah,
yeah,
right.
that looks about
Yeah.
right,
Right.
yeah.
Sure.
And then here's reality.
Sure.
So I was just wanting to make sure everyone's okay with reality.
When it comes to the area, I think I speak for everybody to say, they're buying what we all thought was theirs anyway.
Yeah.
It all looked like it was theirs.
Is there a motion to continue the sale of the Swall property to the common area to the Swall based on the survey?
I'll make that motion.
Jim's made a motion.
I'll second.
Drew second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, at this time, we're gonna call a closed session to consult with an attorney employee retained by the public body in order to preserve the attorney-client privilege between the attorney and the public body, which privilege is hereby acknowledged.